Okay, so for the beans, I stepped away for a minute and they did end up running out of water, so I would recommend using a lot more water for the beans. It should still taste fine, but just don't make the same mistake I did. So if you see a little bit of coloring on mine, that's why. And they're almost done. They got about another 10 minutes, and then I'll add them to my veggie mix, mash it up, add the egg, add the breadcrumb, and then they will be ready to fry. Also, a little note for the stew, it did run pretty low on water. It evaporated pretty quickly, so I have been adding more a little bit every once in a while. So towards the end, if it's still too like loose, just cook it on higher heat. It'll evaporate and it will become thicker. Okay, so my beans are done. They're nice and soft, so I'm going to add them into here. Okay, so along with my beans and vegetables, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of breadcrumbs and half of an egg. More. There you go, or about 1 ounce of an egg. Will be perfect. Okay, for this next part, we're basically going to mash everything together. So you can either use a potato masher, you can use a fork. I'm going to use a pastry masher just because I find it easiest. And so basically just mash the beans until they all become a thick paste. And the egg is all mixed in and the breadcrumbs are all mixed in. Okay, so I've been mashing this for about a minute now. You basically just want it till it's in a ball, almost not a ball, but just enough to where it sticks together. It is not too crumbly. If you need to add a little bit more breadcrumb, go ahead. You know, everybody's vegetables are going to have a little bit more different water content, so if you need to add like an extra teaspoon and a half of breadcrumbs, go ahead. So now that the bean patty paste is ready, we have our carrot that we diced earlier. We're going to add that to our stew. And the reason we do this later is because we don't want it to get mushy. We want it to still be like kind of just like soft. So about last 30 minutes, you're going to want to add in your carrots. That way they're tender, they have still a little bit of bite to them, they're not mushy, but they're not hard carrots. Okay, so I'm going to start my peanut shortbread cookie. So I have my oven preheating. I have my 2 tablespoons of butter in the bowl. I'm going to get my 1 tablespoon of sugar. Just kind of put it over that. And then, it's kind of hard to do with the camera, but I'm basically going to mash the butter and sugar together and almost cream it. But since it's such a small amount, don't try to do it in a KitchenAid. It will not work. I've tried. So a bowl like this, you could use a glass bowl or anything, but something smaller because it is such a small amount. So that's about what you want it to look like. See, all the sugar and butter's combined. My butter was pretty soft, so I might have to stick it in the fridge for a little bit. But now I'm going to add my 3 tablespoons of flour. 2, 3. And do the same thing. Okay, so I have my dough now, and I'm going to be using this scoop. It is the 1-inch scoop. It is the smallest one I have, and it will work just fine. Okay, so I scooped them out, and I put the little peanuts on top. I put 3 because I thought it looked cute. And now they're going to go into the oven at 325 for about 10 minutes or until they're lightly golden around the edges. Okay, so I just took my cookies out. As you see, they're still pretty hot, but they've got a good golden color on the bottom. Again, my camera does no justice for it. This one got a little bit burnt, use a little bit smaller. And then I've started my bean patties, and basically what you want to do is take a scoop. This one's just slightly bigger than the one I used for the cookies, and I scoop it, put it in here, it's in its ball, and then I flatten it, and then it will break a little bit on you, don't worry too much. This one's got a little bit light golden color, but you kind of want it a little bit closer to this because we are using the raw vegetables, and so you do want them cooked in the middle. So you can see there's the big cauliflower and the radish and cabbage and all that good stuff. So just make sure it's cooked all the way through and it'll be good. Also, I started my white rice, and that's going to be for the stew, so keep that in mind. I'm going to do a little bit better of a blurry. of a demonstration for the patties, so sorry if it gets a little blurry real quick, but basically I'm packing it into the scoop, dropping it in the middle of my pan, and then taking my spatula and flattening it. It's going to get stuck a little bit, just try to tap it off. So it's a little bit thinner so it cooks a little bit more evenly. Again, it's hard to do with one hand. If I had two hands, it would not fall apart like that. But if it does, just try to put it back together as much as possible, and then fry it. Halfway through, flip it, put it on a plate with some paper towel to drain any of the extra oil, and you should be good to go. Okay, so while I'm waiting for my rice to finish up, I chopped up my tomato, I got my onion, my garlic, and my cilantro. I'm going to put it in this little bowl, and it's basically going to be our pico de gallo for our, oops, ignore that, for our white bean patties. Okay, so I finished my pico de gallo. I mixed it all up, threw in a little cilantro leaf garnish. My stew and my rice were done, so those are plated. These are my cookies. Again, you can see they've got the golden bottom, the light tops, they're nice and fluffy. And then our white bean patties, and that is basically the entire dish. That is how I chose to plate mine. You can plate yours however you feel, as long as it looks decent. And I hope you have fun making these recipes.